you rotten old witch! I told you not to come here!
Why are you doing this?
Are you deaf now too? I said you were not invited!
Adrienne, this ceremony is honoring your father.
And he is dead! Security, get her out of here! What are you waiting for? Remove her!
Your father was right. What? He warned me this day would come.
What did he tell you, Mother? What did Father tell you before he died? Enough to know you should be far more afraid of losing yourself than losing that chair.
What exactly do you know? You thought I was powerless because I never used my power against you. There is a difference.
My daughter called me a rotten old witch in front of the very people I spent 35 years helping put behind our family. She ordered security to drag me from a ceremony honoring my dead husband, then looked me in the eyes and reminded me that she was the governor now. What Adrienne didn't understand was that I had spent months allowing her to mistake my silence for weakness. I knew why she had been telling people my mind was failing. I knew why she removed me from meetings. I knew why she fired the people closest to me. And most importantly, I knew what her father discovered about her before he died. He had placed something in my hands that could change everything our daughter had spent her entire life becoming. Yet even after everything Adrienne did to me, I couldn't bring myself to use it against her, because she wasn't my enemy. She was still my child, but the moment she stood in that ballroom and called me a rotten old witch, I finally understood something I should have understood long ago. Protecting my daughter from consequences wasn't saving her anymore. It was helping the governor destroy the little girl I raised. And that night, I decided to stop protecting her. Why did the governor of one of the state's most respected political families publicly humiliate her own 82-year-old mother in front of hundreds of witnesses? What did her father warn Constance about before he died? And why did those 5 words suddenly frighten the most powerful woman in the entire state? Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Walter Prescott is the face people see on television, Margaret told a young Adrienne once at a campaign stop. Your mother is the reason they trust what they see. Mrs. Prescott, I didn't expect you to remember, a mill worker's widow told Constance, when Constance showed up unannounced at her door 2 years after their first meeting. You told me your husband loved the river in autumn, Constance said. I thought you might want company the first fall without him. How did you remember that? We only spoke once at the funeral. I write things down, Constance said, and then I make a point of remembering them without the notes. The notes are only there in case my memory ever fails me before my heart does. You don't win people with speeches, she used to tell Walter, straightening his tie before every event. You win them by remembering they exist. And if I forget? He'd ask, half teasing. Then thank God you married someone who never does. Doesn't it feel incredible? Young Adrienne once asked, watching a crowd rise for her father at a town hall. Everybody wants you. Walter knelt down to meet her eyes. They don't want me, sweetheart, he said. They want to believe someone in that building still cares about people like them. That's not the same thing. Don't ever confuse the two. Adrienne nodded like she understood. She didn't. Do you ever get tired of it? Young Adrienne once asked her mother, remembering everyone's names, everyone's birthdays, everyone's troubles? I don't think of it as tiring, Constance told her. I think of it as the only thing that actually holds a family like ours together. Father holds it together. Everyone says so. Your father holds the podium, Constance said. That's not quite the same thing as holding a family. She's watching the wrong thing, Walter admitted to Constance one night, years later. She sees the office. She doesn't see what's underneath it. She's still young, Constance said. She'll learn. And if she doesn't, Constance said nothing. The professor was wrong to give me a C, Adrienne told her father, home from college for the weekend. I got him to change it. On what grounds? On the grounds that people like us don't get C's, father. You can't buy respect, Adrienne, Walter told her. You can only earn it, and it takes longer than you'd like. You didn't earn yours, she said. People just gave it to you because you're you. Walter looked at her for a long moment. That's exactly the mistake I'm afraid you're going to make. What mistake, Father? Believing that being given something is the same as deserving it. One day you'll want something you can't simply take, and you won't know what to do when the world doesn't hand it to you. That'll never happen to me. I hope you're right, Walter said. I don't think you are. He would have wanted you to be strong, Margaret told Constance at Walter's funeral. He would have wanted his daughter back, Constance said. I'm not certain yet which version of her is left. Are you certain about this? Constance asked Adrienne the week before the governor's announcement. Certain about what? Taking what's mine? It was never simply yours to take, Adrienne. It was your father's life's work. People will expect you to carry it, not just wear it. I know the difference, Mother. Do you? Are you proud of me? Adrienne asked, backstage before her inauguration, and for one moment she sounded like a child again. Constance took her daughter's face in both hands. I am proud of the woman I raised, she said carefully. I hope you remember who that woman was, once the title starts telling you who to become instead. Governor Prescott. Madam Governor. Governor, if you have a moment. Your father used to hate that title in private, Constance told her daughter, the week after the inauguration. He said it made him sound like a building instead of a person. I don't hate it, Adrienne said. I know, Constance said. That worries me more than if you did. You don't have to knock, ma'am, her new chief of staff told her, the first week. Just walk in. People move for you now. Do they? Adrienne asked, testing the words. Yes, Governor, they do. I've inherited his office, Adrienne told the mirror that night, straightening her jacket the way her father once had. The rest will follow. It didn't. You look tired, Governor, her chief of staff told her, the morning after her first difficult press conference. I'm not tired. I'm surrounded by people who don't understand what this office requires. Your mother understood what your father's office required for 35 years. My mother, Adrienne said, is not the one who has to stand in front of cameras and be judged for every word. I'm making a list of who I want to see at the memorial, Constance told Margaret, choosing her dress carefully. It's been so long since half of them have seen me out of mourning clothes. On the evening of the ceremony, the cars left without her. Mrs. Prescott, a young aide said, unable to look at her directly. The governor felt your presence tonight might make the evening feel too heavy, too depressing for the guests. Depressing, Constance repeated quietly, as if testing the word. I'm only telling you what she told me to say, ma'am. Then you've told me, Constance said. Thank you for having the courage to be the one who did. The young aide didn't answer. He simply stepped aside so she could pass, unable to meet her eyes as she climbed the stairs alone. Weeks later, Constance found Adrienne humiliating a household employee in the kitchen. That's enough, Constance said, stepping between them. Go rest. I'll find it myself. You had no right to interfere, Adrienne said, the moment the door closed. Your father never needed to make people afraid of him to know he was powerful, Constance said quietly. And you're not my father. No, Constance agreed. I'm your mother. You're an old woman living in my house because I allow it, Adrienne said. Where should Mrs. Prescott stand for the formal portrait, Governor? The photographer asked. She's not feeling up to photographs today, Adrienne answered, before anyone could look for her. Is there a problem with my seating, ma'am? A young server asked, noticing Constance studying a place card near the kitchen doors. None at all, Constance said, sitting down. What's your name? Daniel, ma'am. Well, Daniel, tell me about yourself while we wait for the first course. Portraits of father and me don't really fit the tone we're going for anymore, Adrienne told a decorator, the week the hallway photographs disappeared into storage. "This isn't Father's house anymore," Adrienne told her mother. "It's mine." "It was never just his house," Constance said quietly. "It was never just yours either." "She still thinks the janitor's opinion matters," Adrienne told a friend on the phone, not knowing Constance stood just outside the door. "It's sweet, in a sad kind of way." "You should be careful," the friend said. "People notice things like that." "Let them notice. I'm the governor. She's a woman who remembers birthdays." "I keep telling myself she'll grow out of it," Constance told Margaret that week. "I don't think I understand yet that power doesn't wait for people to grow. It simply takes whatever room is left in them and fills it." "They needed to go," Adrienne told her mother flatly, when Constance asked why 2 longtime staff members had been dismissed in the same week. "This administration needs people who understand who's actually in charge here now." "They understood exactly who was in charge," Constance said quietly. "That's precisely why you couldn't keep them. Mrs. Prescott, I wanted to thank you," the dismissed cook told her at the service entrance, "for everything, all these years. You did nothing wrong," Constance told her, taking both her hands. "I want you to know that." "I know that, ma'am. I think you're the only one in this house who still does." "Where will you go?" "My sister's, for now. I'll manage." "You call me," Constance said, "the moment you need anything. Do you understand me?" "I understand, ma'am. I always have." "Then we understand each other perfectly," Constance said, and held the door for her one last time. "I keep telling myself she's just grieving badly," Constance told Margaret. "But grief doesn't have a strategy, Margaret. Cruelty like this does." At the next dinner, Constance deliberately mentioned something small and harmless, a detail about a fishing trip Walter had once taken. "Mother, you're confused again," Adrienne said instantly, before Constance had even finished the sentence. She didn't wait to hear whether the story was harmless, Constance told Margaret afterward. She cut it off on instinct, the way a person stops a fire before it can spread, not the way a person corrects an old woman's memory. "Mother, you're confused again," Adrienne said, the next time Constance corrected a small detail in front of guests. "You're 82, she said another time, in front of 3 staff members. "You don't understand how things work anymore. Father has been dead for months," she said once. "Stop inventing conversations with him." "I only mentioned that he loved the lake house," Constance told Margaret afterward, still stung. "That's all I said," and she looked at the room and told them I get confused about small things now. "Do you think she believes it herself?" Margaret asked. "I think she needs other people to believe it," Constance said. "That's worse." "Mother," Adrienne cut in quickly, smiling for the room, when Constance mentioned a private meeting Walter had once described, involving a senator at the table. "You know how these stories get twisted in your memory. Please, let's not confuse our guests." The senator studied Constance a moment longer than politeness required, then let the subject drop, his curiosity folding quietly into something closer to pity. "She's not just insulting me, Margaret," Constance said. "She's building a case against me. My daughter wasn't losing her temper with me tonight. She was rehearsing a story for a room that hasn't been built yet. My own daughter is trying to destroy my credibility before I ever get the chance to use it," Constance told Margaret over tea in her kitchen. "I keep telling myself it's grief. But grief doesn't calculate. Grief doesn't remember to do it in front of witnesses." "What are you going to do?" Margaret asked. "I don't know yet," Constance admitted. "I keep hoping I won't have to do anything at all. I keep hoping she'll simply stop." Margaret reached across the table and took her hand. And if she doesn't?" Constance didn't answer. "You've spent your whole life fixing things quietly, Constance," Margaret said gently. "Maybe it's time you let something stay broken long enough for her to see it. And if she never sees it, then at least it will finally be hers to carry. Not yours." I've never once let anything stay broken in 35 years, Constance admitted. I don't know if I remember how. You'll remember, Margaret said. It's simpler than fixing things. You just have to stop. Constance looked out the window for a long moment. I keep thinking about the woman she used to be before any of this. She's still in there, Margaret said. Somewhere. I used to believe that with my whole heart, Constance said. Some days now, I only believe it because the alternative is unbearable. Then believe it for that reason, Margaret said. It's still belief. It still counts. In the final months of his own governorship, Walter found Constance in his study late one night, a folder open on the desk in front of him. Constance, he said, I need to show you something, and I need you to tell me I'm wrong. What is it? Adrienne made promises to the Harlow Group months before she was ever a candidate for this office. She agreed to fast-track their land development approvals once she took power, in exchange for the money and political support that's been quietly building her path toward succeeding me. That's an exchange that should never happen behind closed doors, and I've seen the emails that prove she made it. Constance sat down slowly. Are you certain? I wish I weren't. Have you spoken to her? Not yet. I keep telling myself there's an explanation. But Constance, I've read enough of this to know there isn't one I'd accept from anyone else. What will you do if there isn't? I don't know, Walter admitted. I've spent my whole career telling people the truth matters more than comfort. I don't know how to say that to my own daughter. You'll find the words, Constance told him. You always do. Not this time, Walter said. This time, I think it might have to be you. Don't destroy her, he told her, months later, his voice already weak, sealing everything he'd found into a single envelope. But don't let this office destroy her either. What do I do with it, Walter? You'll know, he said. You always know. I keep hoping she'll stop on her own, Constance told Margaret, in the months after his death, that she'll simply wake up one morning and remember who she used to be. And if she doesn't? Margaret asked again. She didn't stop. You rotten old witch, Adrienne screamed, the night of the ceremony honoring Walter's legacy. I told you not to come here. Your father was right, Constance said quietly. What? Adrienne's fury faltered. He warned me this day would come. In the days that followed, aides would later say, the governor grew strange, distracted, asking pointed questions about her father's final months that nobody in the office could answer. What did he say to you at the end? Adrienne asked one of Walter's oldest staffers, cornering him in a hallway. Before he died. Did he mention me? He mentioned you every day, Governor. I couldn't tell you which conversation you're asking about. Adrienne let the matter drop, though it was clear to everyone watching that it hadn't actually left her. That night, Constance called Margaret. I understand now, she told her. Protecting her from consequences was never saving her. It was helping the governor finish destroying the girl I raised. So what will you do? I'm done, Constance said. Tonight, I'm done. What does done mean, Constance? It means I'm no longer going to be the reason she never faces what she's become. It means the next bridge she burns, she rebuilds herself, or she doesn't rebuild it at all. And if that costs her everything, then it costs her everything, Constance said. I would rather lose the governor than lose my daughter completely. Do you believe you can still have both? I don't know anymore, Constance admitted. I only know I can't keep having neither, which is what pretending everything is fine has actually been giving me. I'm done asking you to protect Adrienne from herself, Constance told an old family friend, and hung up before he could answer. Tell the governor I spoke with Constance last week, a former state chairman told Adrienne's chief of staff, withdrawing his endorsement. She didn't ask me to do this. She just stopped asking me not to. I have a scheduling conflict, Governor, Pastor Whitmore told her himself, declining her invitation to the Harvest fundraiser. Reverend, we both know that isn't true. No, he admitted. It isn't. But I think you already know why, and I don't believe you want to hear me say it out loud. Then say it anyway, Adrienne pressed. Your mother has stood beside 3 generations of Prescotts at their best moments, Governor. She's never once stood beside cruelty. I think that tells you everything you need to know about which one you've been choosing lately. Adrienne had no answer for that. She simply ended the call. Put me through to their director, Adrienne told an aide, of the Harlow Group. He's asked that we route all correspondence through his associate for now, Governor. Since when? Since last week, ma'am. Cancel the Hendricks dinner, Adrienne told her scheduler that same week. They already canceled it themselves, Governor. Yesterday afternoon. On what grounds? They didn't give one. I'm the governor! Adrienne shouted at her staff. Somebody explain to me why the Hendricks endorsement fell through this morning. Somebody explain why 3 calls I made today went straight to voicemail. I asked a question. Yes, ma'am. One of her longtime aides finally answered, her voice quiet but steady. But your mother is the reason half this state ever trusted your name in the first place, and from what I understand, she's stopped asking them to keep trusting it. That's absurd, Adrienne said, though her voice had lost its certainty. My mother doesn't have that kind of influence. She's an old woman who bakes for the church fundraiser. With respect, Governor, that old woman drove out to see half the families in this state before either of us were born. I'd think twice before betting against her. The aide said nothing else after that. She didn't need to. A local reporter, sensing a story before anyone would confirm one, called Margaret directly that same week. Is there any truth to the rumor that Constance Prescott and the governor are estranged? She asked. I have no comment on family matters, Margaret said, and ended the call before the reporter could ask the second question neither of them wanted answered publicly yet. You turned everyone against me, Adrienne said, finding her mother in the study that evening, her hands trembling. I didn't turn anyone against you, Constance answered calmly, not looking up from her book. Don't lie to me. My donors are leaving. My allies won't answer their phones. People who have known this family for 30 years won't even take my calls anymore. Have you asked yourself why? Constance said. Or only who to blame? Don't turn this around on me. I'm not turning anything, Adrienne. I'm asking you a question you've never once asked yourself. Adrienne's jaw tightened. Fine. Why? I didn't turn anyone against you,
Just once.
Constance repeated.
I stopped asking
Then what
them
did you
to
do?
forgive you.
I stopped asking them to forgive you. For years, I called the people you insulted, Constance continued, her voice steady and unhurried. I visited the families of the men you humiliated. I repaired every relationship you broke and every promise you failed to keep. I convinced person after person that my daughter deserved one more chance, over and over, more times than I can count. Give me an example, Adrienne said, her voice unsteady. Just one. Do you remember Councilman Hayes, the one you cut off mid-sentence at the infrastructure hearing 3 years ago, in front of every reporter in the building? He got over it. He got over it because I drove 2 hours to his farm the following week and sat at his table until midnight, listening to him talk about his father's failing health, about how disrespected he felt by a girl he used to bounce on his knee. I didn't defend you. I simply listened the way you refused to. By the time I left, he'd agreed to support the water bill you needed passed. You never even knew his name was in danger of leaving your side. Why didn't he ever say anything to me directly? Because men like Hayes don't warn you when they're about to walk away. They simply walk. I caught him before he reached the door. That's the entire difference between us, Adrienne. You wait for people to leave. I go looking for them before they do. You did all of that? Every time, Constance said. For years. Long before you ever raised your voice at me in that ballroom. Why? After everything I've done, why would you keep doing that for me? Because I built that coalition for your father's dream, and then I kept building it for you, hoping every single time that you'd eventually become someone worthy of it. Worthy of it how? Worthy the way your father was worthy. Not because people were afraid to disappoint him, but because he never once treated them like they existed only to serve his ambitions. And I did? You still do, Adrienne. Even now, some part of you is asking me this question because you want to know how to get it back, not because you understand what you lost in the first place. You believed you built this coalition yourself, Constance continued. You didn't. I built it decades before you were ever governor. Community leaders, church pastors, union men, small business owners who remembered when your father couldn't get a meeting with anyone important. Your father used to call it my circle, only half joking. It was simply decades of people trusting one woman to keep her word, and I have spent every day of your time in that office quietly holding it together behind you, without your knowledge and without your thanks. You thought I was powerless because I never used my power against you, Constance said. There is a difference. Why didn't you tell me? Adrienne whispered. Because you never asked how any of this worked, Constance said. You only asked why people obeyed you. I'm asking now. I know, Constance said. That's the first difference I've seen in you in a very long time. Constance had never opened every part of what Walter left her. The section concerning the Harlow group she had already used, quietly, months ago, to confirm what her husband suspected. But one part of it, sealed separately inside, she had never touched at all, until now. Where did you get that?
Where did you get that?
Adrienne asked,
Do you remember
when her
Nancy
mother
Dawson?
placed an old envelope on the table between them, her father's handwriting across the front. I've had it for 27 years, Constance said. Mother, do you remember Nancy Dawson? I was 18, Adrienne said, her voice barely above a whisper. Adrienne remembered every detail of that night as if it had happened an hour ago. She had taken her father's car without permission after a party, driving too fast on the road home. She struck Nancy Dawson, a young woman crossing the street, hard enough to throw her against the windshield. Adrienne had pulled over, screaming, certain in that moment that she had killed her. Her father arrived within minutes. He told her to get back in the car. He and Constance handled everything that followed, and Adrienne was never told what handled had actually meant, only that the woman was gone from her life completely, and that she should be grateful for that. For 27 years, Adrienne had believed Nancy Dawson died that night, and that her parents had spent decades quietly covering up her death. That's not what I asked. Father said it was handled, and for 27 years, you never once asked me what handled meant. I was afraid to ask, Adrienne said. I told myself if I never asked, it would stay something that happened a long time ago instead of something I did. That's not how consequences work, Adrienne. They don't disappear because you refuse to look at them. They simply wait. What do you want from me? Adrienne asked, staring at the envelope, visibly terrified of what was inside it. I don't want anything from you, Constance said, but you are going to face the consequences of what you've done in that office, honestly, on your own, without anyone else absorbing the blame for you. And you are going to decide what kind of woman you intend to become before I ever show you what's inside this envelope. I owe an apology to Councilman Hayes and to several members of my own staff for the way I have treated people who deserved better from someone in my position, Adrienne told a press conference, unprompted. That's all I have to say on it today. A reporter pressed for more, but Adrienne had already stepped back from the podium, leaving the question hanging in a room that hadn't expected her to volunteer anything at all. I brought you tea, Adrienne told her mother one evening, knocking on her door for the first time in over a year. The kind you like, not the kind I usually have sent up. Thank you, Constance said. I've been thinking, Adrienne continued. Maybe we could have dinner together this week. Just us. That would be nice, Constance said, and meant it, even as she recognized the shape of what she was watching. Why didn't you ever tell me about the councilman? About any of it? Adrienne asked, over dinner that week. Would you have listened? No, Adrienne admitted. For once, honestly, I don't think I would have. Then, you already know why. I've been thinking about the councilman a lot lately, Adrienne admitted. About all of them, actually. The people I never thought twice about. What have you been thinking? That I never once wondered what happened to them after I walked away. Whether they were all right, whether I'd cost them something I never bothered to notice. That's the first honest thing you've said to me in years, Constance told her. Is it enough? It's a start, Constance said. Starts and endings are rarely the same thing, Adrienne. Don't confuse one for the other. How will I know the difference between this being real and this just being fear wearing a nicer face? You won't know, Constance said honestly. Not for a while. Neither will I. That's precisely why we're both going to have to wait and watch, instead of deciding tonight. Constance watched all of it carefully, and she was not fooled for a single moment. She's not becoming kind, Margaret, Constance said that same week. She's becoming frightened. And fear isn't the same thing as character. Reinstating the groundskeeper meant reversing a decision in front of the same staff who had watched her make it, an admission of fault with no way to soften it in the retelling. I was wrong to let you go the way I did, Adrienne told him, calling him herself. There's a position for you if you'll have it, and I'm sorry it took me this long to say so. I appreciate that, Governor. Truly. Don't thank me yet. Ask me again in 6 months whether I've actually changed, or whether this was just a good week. I think I'll ask you in 6 months regardless, he said. Some habits are worth checking on. I should have listened to you 3 years ago, she told Councilman Hayes, in private, without a single aide in the room, knowing full well he could repeat every word of it to the press the moment she left. Governor, I appreciate you saying so. I'm not saying it as governor, Adrienne told him. I'm saying it as the person who was wrong. Most people in your position never learn to make that distinction, Governor. I almost didn't, Adrienne said. I'm still not certain I have, some days. Whatever is inside that envelope, Adrienne told her mother one evening, do what you have to do. I'm tired of becoming someone Father would be ashamed of, just because I was afraid of losing his chair. Constance searched her daughter's face for fear. She found none. Is this real, Constance? Margaret asked quietly, watching Adrienne from across the room during one of her private amends visits. Or is she simply better now at performing for an audience of one? I don't know yet, Constance admitted. That's precisely why I'm still watching instead of celebrating. That night, Constance walked into a room filled with the very people her daughter had once believed belonged to her. Every single person in that room stood. Constance, the elderly pastor said, crossing the room first to take both her hands in his.
It's been too long.
It's been too long.
It has.
Nobody ordered any of them to stand. Adrienne would later tell her mother, watching from the doorway. I finally understand the difference between being obeyed and being respected. It took you long enough, Constance said, though there was no real edge in it anymore. It did, Adrienne agreed. I'm sorry it took me this long to see it. Your mother never needed the mansion, Margaret told her quietly, standing beside her. She never needed the office. She built something far more permanent than either one relationship at a time, over more years than you've been alive. How do I ever build something like that? You don't build it in a season, Margaret said. You build it the way she did. One kept promise at a time, for longer than feels fair, until one day people simply stand up when you walk into a room and you don't remember asking them to. That night, Constance finally opened the envelope completely, placing a single photograph on the table. An older woman, smiling, standing in front of a home that clearly wasn't in this country. Who is that? Adrienne asked. Nancy, Constance said. You didn't kill her, Constance said. She survived that night. She recovered. She married. She had children. Years later, she moved abroad and built an entire life you never once thought to ask about. How do you know all of this? Because your father made sure of it. He paid for her surgeries, her recovery. Every bill, quietly, for years, never as a payoff, never as an admission, only because a young woman was hurt because of our daughter, and someone in this family needed to take responsibility, even if you never could. Did she ever know it was us? No. Your father made certain of that too. He didn't want her carrying our name the way you've carried her memory. That seems unfair to her. It was the only fair thing left to give her, Constance said. She got to live her life without our family attached to the worst night of it. You didn't get the same mercy. You attached yourself to it every day for 27 years. You spent 27 years afraid you had taken that woman's life, Constance said. But what frightened me was never what happened that night. It was that in 27 years, you never once asked me whether she survived. I was so afraid, Adrienne whispered, beginning to cry quietly, without performance, for the first time Constance had seen in years. I didn't know how to ask. I didn't know how to face it. I know, Constance said gently. But Adrienne, that fear became the way you treated everyone after that. The waitress, the driver, your own staff, me. You stopped asking whether people survived what you did to them. You only asked whether you'd gotten away with it. After everything I did to you, Adrienne finally asked, why didn't you destroy me? Constance reached across the table and took her daughter's hand. Because I wasn't trying to defeat you, she said. I was trying to get my daughter back. Do you think Father would forgive me? For all of it? Your father spent his whole life forgiving people who never even asked him to, Constance said. I don't think forgiving his own daughter would have been the hard part for him. What was the hard part then? Watching you become someone he had to warn me about. That was the hard part. This, Constance said, gesturing between them. This is the easy part. It doesn't feel easy, no, Constance agreed. But it's still easier than the alternative. Believe me, I've lived both. They sat together for a long while after that, neither one speaking, the room growing dim as the afternoon light faded, the quiet sound of the old house settling around them. I don't know how to undo any of it, Adrienne finally said, her voice small. You don't undo it, Constance said gently. You simply become someone who wouldn't do it again. That's all any of us can offer the people we've hurt. Is that enough? After everything? It has to be, Constance said, because it's the only thing any of us actually have to offer. Not undoing, only becoming. Weeks later, on an ordinary afternoon with no cameras present, Adrienne stopped in a hallway to speak with an elderly janitor. I don't believe I've ever asked your name, she said. Samuel, ma'am, he said, clearly startled. How long have you worked here, Samuel? 11 years this spring, Governor. Do you have family nearby? I have a daughter, he said, nursing student. 2 years left, and my wife passed. Same year as your father. I'm sorry, Samuel, Adrienne said, and meant it. It's all right, Governor. She had a good life. That's all any of us can really ask for. Do you think she'd be proud of the nurse your daughter is becoming? Every day, Samuel said, his voice catching slightly. Every single day. I hope someone says the same about me one day, Adrienne said quietly, that I had a good life, not a powerful one, a good one. Thank you for everything you do here. I mean that. Constance watched from a distance, saying nothing. She did not need to. Her daughter had finally come home. Would you have forgiven her? Let us know in the comments. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so so you never miss what's coming next. We'll see you in the next one.